In this week's video, I'm going to show you how to layer your synth sound so you can get your synths going from... In this week's video, I'm going to show you how to layer your synths so you can get your synth sounds from sounding like this to this. Hey everyone, this week we're going to cover one of my most used techniques in production, and that is layering. Layering synths, layering sounds, whatever you call it, but it's one of my most used techniques and I can get the best sounds out of all of my equipment just by a little finessing and combining some multiple instruments together. Now some of you might be thinking that we already do this and this is nothing new to me, but this is something that I didn't do until well into my production sort of journey. And once I started doing it, I realized that that maybe just the analog synth or just the plugin on its own can't do all the job, and to like separate the sounds out a little bit and to not give all the heavy lifting rather to one instrument is the way to go, and I get the best results. So I just have this little session here, and let's we've got a Juno 106. You can see I got it set up here, and by itself it sounds pretty good. Within the track it sounds good, but we can do more. First up, let's look at how I layer a simple pad in a chord progression with a plug-in synth. You can hear we have this pad playing from the Juno 106. Has a lot of information going on, but it sounds pretty solid as it is right now. And whilst it might sound good, it can sound so much better, and also when it comes time to mixing, we can make it a lot easier. So on the actual channel, I don't have anything. There's no effects or anything like that. It's just the 106 on its own. So for this example, I'm going to add another 106, and this is just, oh, not that one. Go to this one here. And it's a plugin, and I've pretty much, when I made this patch, I pretty much just took inspiration from the plugin. So I kind of copied roughly the same settings across to kind of give, to kind of show you that while the settings might be the same between the two, the sounds are very different. So we've been listening to the hardware. So let's just listen to the plugin. And then back to the original. So you can hear they're pretty close, and if I kind of dialed this in a bit more, I could get even closer, but that's not what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to get a nice sort of solid sound from either the hardware or the plugin, and then I'm trying to kind of fill in the gaps, if you would, with the other instrument. So if I play the two together, it really fills out that full frequency range and kind of gives it a lot more character to the sound. Now I really like the higher frequency qualities of the plugin, so I'm going to add an EQ to sort of cut out some of the lower. So you can see we've still got a lot of information in here, so we can just come in. Don't want to go too crazy with it. We're just kind of trying to balance the sounds a little bit. Obviously this is not the same as what we would do for the full mix, but we're just going to start to demonstrate how I kind of get in the ballpark before the final mix. And then if we come along, so I'd go ahead and I would take out the lower there. And then we can go back to the plugin again. Maybe even like that. And we start to sort of shape the sound to, so it's not the plugin and the hardware section. We've got one whole sound together. Obviously from there we can start to add compression, start to add some reverb and stuff like that. But this is just kind of giving you an idea of what I go through when I'm writing a track and kind of putting ideas together. That while one sound on its own sounds really good, it can sound so much better by just sort of adding that little bit more in there. So for this example, we're going to add a sub to the 101 bass. I recorded it with the actual hardware, and I find that even using the hardware, it still just has, it just lacks that low end. And also when it comes time to mixing, it's really hard to kind of dial in when you just got the bass that's kind of sub to mid, low mids to mid bass. It's too much frequency range for it to kind of really dial in there. So adding a sub can really help with the mixing and just kind of separate everything. And as I mentioned before, it's just not making one instrument do all the heavy lifting. So you can hear we have this little sub that you can see the waveform moving. I just recorded some filter passes and stuff like that as I went. So we're going to add a sub to it. And for this one, we're going to use the sampler. For those of you that don't use Logic, or if you're just starting with Logic, the sampler is a great little sub. Obviously for this part of the video, you're probably going to want to use headphones or monitor speakers. So we've got our sub, and then we can solo it. And you can hear there it has like the little click at the end. And if I play it with the 101, it's not really tying in too well with it. So what we can do is, if you look at the waveform, you can see it has a fair bit of release on it. So we're going to come along to the amp envelope of the sub rather, and just I'm going to pull down the sustain, and we're going to increase the decay. So if we just solo it, we almost want it like a little drum. We want a little bit of that attack, but not too much. And if we bring it with the sub, with the 101, and there you go. So what I would do while I was writing is I would add an EQ, and as you can see, this is all of our subs. So I'd add a little low cut just to kind of tighten it up a little bit. And then I would add a high cut. Because all of this frequency range from the 101, you can see it's all sitting in here. We don't want it to clash too much with it. So while I was writing, I would just kind of slap on an EQ like that, and then when it comes time to mixing down the road is when I would really start to dial everything in. But it's starting to sound pretty good there. Next, I would come along. See, we've got our sub and our 101, and you can see the little arrow. That's our compressor with the sidechain because it has the input in. I would bring that over and then just kind of dial that back in. Probably bring them down in volume a little bit, especially the sub. And there you go. Lastly, let's have a look at a creative way to add a synthesized element with a more organic element like a string. So for this, I've got this little 101 lead. Super simple. Nothing much going on with it at all. I bring it over so you can see what's happening. Just a long attack. Still got the sustain on there so you can hear all the notes, but it definitely dips down. So for here, I've gone and added this strings element. Again, super slow attack, and I've got the release pretty high as well. And then I've set the articulation to sustain, so it's going to hold the notes there. So and then if I was putting this within my track, I would start to add some EQs. So this is the 101, and then this is the string, and you can kind of look at them together. Okay, this is sitting around the 300, and this is more sitting around the meat of it, sort of 1 to 2K. So we could come, we're going to take the lows out. This one we're definitely going to take the lows out of the strings. Maybe give it a little boost there. Take some of the super highs out. We could even take some of like a bit more aggressive on the highs for this 101 element. And then from there, what you can do is you could go create your own instrument from that. So you would sample, say, every 2 to 3 notes throughout the scale, so you get a nice full sounding instrument. Then after that is when you would start to add some reverb, chorus, and just other delays and effects to kind of bring it to life a little bit more. So that's about it for today. Just super quick, 3 little demonstrations of layering synths and different applications for it. If you want to see my other videos, you can check out the ones above. And at the end of the day, hopefully I have inspired you to create something today. Until next time, see you later.